Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting locker room talk. One of our favorite ones during the year. This is the Super Bowl prop bets locker room talk. And as always, I'm Dan.
And I'm Joe.
All right, Joe, prop bet time is always one of my favorites. You get the coin toss, color of the Gatorade, the length of the national anthem. We like to do a little bit of a deeper dive and get some of the cool ones. And Joe, the first one that we have is going to be for you. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, the first one I looked at, Dan, is with the coin flip, the coin toss. You would have to bet on, I guess, the team that wins the coin flip, whether or not they would also win the game.
And Joe, this is one that I'm sure there's some people that would probably fall for it because it sounds like, well, that's certainly possible. There's a lot of variables that go into that. I mean, you're talking more than 4-1 odds, especially if you're talking about a team like the Chiefs, who I think should be big underdogs in this one.
It'd be hard enough to win one, just the coin flip, or win the outcome of the game, but having them both have to be the same thing really, decreases the odds.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of places that have a lot more value on it than this. I think both of them pay out more than 3-1 as they should because you're probably going to lose if you make that bet.
I can see it.
All right, Joe. The first one that I had is what will be mentioned first during the Super Bowl speech. And there's a lot of options for this one. It ranges from the lowest level that you could bet on would be the manager, the team owner. So, for instance, the Patriots win the Super Bowl. They mentioned Robert Kraft. That one pays out plus 2,500. The best odds that you have is thanking your team. You don't even win even money on that, your team or your teammates. The city and the fans, that's your next best odds at plus 325. That's not a bad one right there. I mean, especially when you think about a city like Philadelphia, where it's the city of brotherly love, and Philadelphians seem to have such a huge pride about their city, and it's got the good like kind of blue collar mentality. I could definitely see that if you think the Eagles are going to win, that being a good bet right there.
Yeah, that could definitely be more enticing and have a better chance.
God religion at plus 370. I think there's a lot of value on that. I mean, how often do you hear the first thing that the player says if they do anything? First off, I just want to thank God or thank Jesus and all that they do for me. I think that's a solid bet right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their family, that's a plus 690. That's interesting to see that one down that low, but that's true that you don't often hear that as the first thing in a post game speech. You hear it a lot less than you would think.
Yes, usually further down the line, it seems like.
Now they have coaches at plus 1,200. I think there's a lot of value in that, especially, I would say with the Chiefs, because Andy Reid is such a generational coach who, now he's not only just, coaching a third Super Bowl, he's coaching against his old team that I think most people, when they think of Andy Reid, they associate him with the Eagles. I think I still associate him more with the Eagles than I do with the Chiefs. And of course, he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl, didn't win it. And, that's one where I think that if you're Mahomes or if you're Travis Kelce or anybody on the Chiefs, if you win the Super Bowl, I could very well see them mention Andy Reid first.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if he wins the Super Bowl, I think he would be the all-time winningest Chiefs head coach in addition to Eagles.
Man, that's some kind of career that Andy Reid has had.
It is.
And he's just such a likable guy, too.
Yep.
All right, Joe, this next one, I'm interested to hear you describe this one.
Yeah, so I think, what did you call it? The scorinometry
The
is the name of it?
scoreagami.
It's origami. Okay, I knew it was something like the origami or nometry. But yeah, so my understanding, Dan, of this category is that you're trying to choose a score that's never happened in a Super Bowl before. Maybe something like, I think, 8-6 or something weird, and whether or not that would happen. Now, I will say, as unlikely as it seems, I don't know if we've had a Super Bowl with like a 19-12 score, which unlikely, but not completely outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, Joe, one thing I will say is that the Eagles have had a very good defense lately. They've really shut down teams from, the 49ers, of course, were, they were shorthanded with what they were dealing with the quarterback position. But they beat the Cowboys 38-7 also, and they've just been really destroying people in the playoffs. And I think it's possible you could see a game that maybe has some weird field goal type scores. Maybe you could see something like a 15-13 type score, and that could be one that could be a scoregami. I think there's possible too that you could throw a safety in there, probably with the Eagles getting the safety.
And all it would take too, it could even be higher scoring. Hypothetically, you could be like 29-22. Something we haven't quite seen before.
Absolutely. And something too that is as good as Jalen Hurts has been this season, and he's been excellent, he's never played in a game like this. I mean, this is the Super Bowl. This is his first one. It's only his second year in the league. And yes, he's played in multiple national championship games when he was at Alabama, but he never won any of them.
Right. And in the playoff run, as we can talk about more in a few minutes, the playoff run's been like so easy. He hasn't really had, the same pressure.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the Chiefs have faced a much more difficult road to get to where they are right now than the Eagles have. I mean, the Chiefs had to beat a really great Bengals team and a really feisty, hot Jags team. That Jags team was the hottest team in the NFL going into that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that they really were rolling with that comeback too.
Yeah, so I mean, there's something to be said for that. So maybe it's possible that you see a couple possessions where maybe Jalen would have usually scored a touchdown, maybe they get a field goal, and maybe he makes some kind of mistake where he drops the ball or something and you get a safety. So the scoregami thing is interesting. It pays out 18-1. I would say from a value standpoint, this may be one of your better Super Bowls to try to bet for a scoregami.
It could be. It could be.
All right, Joe, the next one that I have, and this one I think is interesting bet right here, is going to be the color of Rihanna's hair. And your options, are brown and black, where you get paid out. You'd have to bet $4 to win one. Bright red at plus 225, or blonde at plus 650. And Joe, I kind of think that, from my knowledge of Rihanna and seeing her at different things, I think bright red is a good bet on this. It pays out at 2.5-1. She tends to have red hair a lot. And I don't know, maybe she's a Chiefs fan and she wants to rep the hair for Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah, bright red was definitely my guess as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're not going to make any money off her being the brown black hair, but she tends to, I think, have showy hair, usually red at big events. I think that's the way to go on this one.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right, Joe, what's the next one that you got?
Yeah, the last one I had dealt with the Kelce brothers, Jason and Travis Kelce that are participating in this game. Two brothers facing off, and it's the over-under on how many times will there be a reference to the Kelce brothers during the game. And I think you told me that it was the over-under was 1.5, 1.5. I feel like you definitely take the over because I definitely see probably at least 3 references, if not more, forthcoming.
Yeah, Joe, this is one where the value pick isn't much, but you take the safe bet on it. I think it's minus 200 on how many times they mention the Kelce brothers. So it's minus 275. Yeah, so that basically would mean you have to bet $2.75 to win $1. But I think from a value standpoint, that's going to happen. I mean, they're going to mention it like the very beginning of the game. They're going to mention it at halftime when they come back out. There may even be a commercial where they have the Kelce brothers together and they go through it through time. And I could definitely see what you're talking about too. I think you mentioned before the show, having a slideshow showing them when they're kids, playing football together, pictures when they're babies maybe. I think that's all going to be out there. And I think there's no way that they don't mention them at least twice.
In a post-game embrace like we see with the quarterbacks usually.
Oh, definitely, yeah. All right, Joe, the last one that I have, and this is going to be interesting right here, which celebrities are they going to show during the Super Bowl? And, of course, the number one that, you don't make much money on because you almost are just expecting him to be there is Bradley Cooper, which you'd have to pay out $2.50 to win $1 at minus 250. I find it interesting that I didn't really know until this year, which I probably should have guessed, that Bradley Cooper is like a super Eagles fan. Which you think about that movie Silver Linings Playbook, that's like very central to that movie, is that his character is a huge Eagles fan and loves it, and it's the city all about Philadelphia. And I think I was watching, I can't remember which game it was. It might have been the Cowboys game. And I was like, oh look, there's Bradley Cooper there. And I looked it up and I didn't realize that he's from a Philadelphia suburb. And so he grew up right outside of Philadelphia and he's a huge Eagles fan.
Yeah, they've had some notable fans before that kind of surprised me, like being from Philadelphia. I know Kobe Bryant was a huge Eagles fan. Mike Trout's a huge Eagles fan. Like they've got some celebrity fans.
I wonder if Will Smith is a big Eagles fan.
He should be.
He should be. I mean, he's kind of doing the Fresh Prince of Bel Air a disservice if he's not actually an Eagles fan.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So let's see. We got Matt Damon at minus 120. I'm not sure who Matt Damon would be a fan of, but I mean, maybe he just likes sports. Here you go, Joe. Will Smith at plus 200. So maybe Will Smith is an Eagles fan because he's listed as a celebrity that could possibly be there.
That's funny.
Kim Kardashian at plus 350. Kevin Hart at minus 250, which I don't know what Kevin Hart's affiliation would be with either one of these. Although I will say that I've now seen a Kevin Hart concert before. He came to Mobile this year, and he was amazing. He was hilarious.
Wow.
He also had something that I'd never seen before at a comedy show. You can't bring your cell phone in. So when you get to the door, the security guys give you this kind of device that's like a bag where it secures your cell phone in. You cannot open this bag, and when you leave the concert, they can pop it off and you can get your phone back.
Yeah, I heard somebody talking about like kind of cell phones being allowed in arenas and things like that today with all the cell phones that were out last night with LeBron's record-breaking performance. And somebody was saying that I didn't realize that at the Masters, apparently, and you would know more about this than me, that you can't have cell phones at the Masters, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And I kind of like that. Like I sometimes, you can call me old school, but I feel like too many people have their phones out a lot of times at these events.
Well, here's something I'll say too, and when I see bands or if I did have my phone out there, you sometimes record things so you'll watch it later. But you don't usually ever really watch things later, and you kind of miss out on the experience of the moment if you do that.
Yeah, that's my fear. And like your cell phone's, going to be a small lens that you're looking through. Like, you're looking through a small lens compared to if you don't have your phone out, you can see the whole thing. Like I feel like if I pull out my phone, I'm kind of missing out on the big picture.
Yeah, and I kind of thought that my wife and I had a better time at the show with not having the phone out at all, and it was kind of interesting. But I think the real reason he may have done that is I think he was looking at it possibly being a Netflix special, because I know he's got a new one coming up, and I think what they do now is they don't want any of that advanced comic material to be out there on YouTube or anything before the Netflix special drops. So I think they play in all these different places. They choose whichever atmosphere and jokes and they hit the most, and then they put it out on Netflix. So I think that's the real reason they probably weren't letting people do that.
That ulterior motive.
Yeah. Joe, here's one, Rob McElhenney, which I think that's someone that you can maybe see being there. Of course, Rob McElhenney is from the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So he's got a huge connection to Philadelphia. And of course, he's also one of the ones that's involved in that Welcome to Wrexham show. He bought that, the English Premier League team with, I don't know why I can't think of the name, Ryan Gosling,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. Or Ryan Reynolds, sorry, not Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I knew what you meant because I saw they got eliminated. Their team did like yesterday or the day before.
Okay. I need to watch that show. I've heard good things about it. I liked Ted Lasso a lot, so maybe that'd be a show for me to give a good whirl to.
Yeah.
Miles Teller, which, I don't know what his connection is, but I really like him as an actor. I thought he was great in Divergent as the bad guy. And, of course, he was excellent in the new Top Gun movie, which if you haven't seen yet, Joe, you need to go see. It's amazing.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio. yet again, I wouldn't know what his connection to this is, but it pays out 4-1. I kind of feel like maybe this is just being thrown on there because now Leo is getting so much hate in the media about having a 19-year-old girlfriend when he's in his late 40s. Then maybe he should just show up to the Super Bowl just to say, "Hey, here I am. What's up?"
Yeah, he's got to be 48 or 49 now. I think he's born like 74.
Yeah, that's been the thing with him for a long time, where he always has younger girlfriends, and apparently now people are just starting to notice it and saying something about him. My thing's always been I don't really care about people being bachelors if that's what they are. Just roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not hurting anybody if you're not doing anything wrong in your marriage. That's why I thought like I was always good with A-Rod until A-Rod, he did that for a long time, and then he finally settled down with J-Lo for a while, and that made sense.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I don't know. Maybe Leo will do that just to say, being myself, get out of my business. That could be one right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought about it, but Matt Damon and they have Brad Pitt. That would be one. I think Brad Pitt is from Arkansas, so I'm not sure, why that would be someone that you really have there as a possibility.
Unless he might like the Chiefs being like, pretty close to that state.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe Arkansas, I could see you being a Chiefs fan. I mean, I guess if you're not a Cowboys fan, that might be one of the closer things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Pink at plus 400. I'm thinking that Pink is probably a Kansas City fan. I could see that being a possibility there.
Yeah. I can see it.
Who I would have added to this list, Joe, is Katy Perry. Katy Perry is from Nebraska. I feel like that's close enough that she could be a Chiefs fan.
And the Chiefs kingdom, like their fanfare has grown over the last like 6 or 7 years, I think, because when the Rams moved back to LA, suddenly like, the entire state of Missouri and, neighboring states too.
Yeah, they've kind of become like, the main, I guess, Western Midwest team.
Mm-hmm.
Because right, like, there is no St. Louis team anymore. And so you're looking like dead in the middle of America, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, all that kind of Colorado, except for the Broncos. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that probably would like Kansas City in that area.
And they've just been so good and consistent the last 5 years.
That's right. All right, Joe. Well, when we come back, we're going to actually preview the Super Bowl game. And feel free to, if you can find these prop bets anywhere and you have access to it, go for it. I think Joe and I's lock of the week when it comes to prop bets would be the Kelce Brothers to be mentioned more than 1.5 times.
I think so, for sure.
All right. Well, don't lock us out and come check us out on our next episode where we actually preview the Super Bowl. Catch all of our episodes on Spotify. You can catch all of our recent episodes on our Facebook fan page and on our YouTube page. You can subscribe to the @Dan and Joe Sports Show YouTube channel. And as always, I'm Dan.
And I'm Joe.